Jai Sita Ram. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Patiye Namaha. Ayodhya Ch chapter 19. I promise. In the previous chapter, we saw how Rama comes to the palace of King Dashratha. He sees Kaikeyi and Dashratha, and he understands that his father is exceptionally morose, and he questions Kaikeyi as to why this is so, and what can he do to help out. Kaikeyi says that she was given two boons by the king, and if Rama promises to fulfill those two boons, she is going to iterate what they are. And Rama says that he will not leave a stone unturned in following the instructions of his father. He will do anything it takes. And then Kaikeyi explains that in the transport of gratitude for having saved his life, the king gave her two boons, and she has demanded them now. Bharata is to be crowned with the same paraphernalia that the king had collected for Rama's coronation, and Bharata is to reign over this entire world with all its wealth and riches and gold and everything. And Rama is supposed to go immediately to Dandakaranya and live the life of a recluse, wearing matted hair, deer skin, bark of robes, and he is to reside there for 14 years. Kaikeyi also iterates that the king could not speak, so because he was caught in the web of conflicting emotions of love and compassion and grief. And Dashrata is overwhelmed with sorrow when he listens to these cruel words from Kaikeyi, but Rama is as tranquil as ever. Now let us see how Rama responds with his words. Verse 1. Tat apriyam amitragnaha vachanam marana upamam shrutva na vyavyathe ramaha kaikeyim cha idam abravit. Rama lent a joyful ear to the words of Kaikeyi that ruined his brightest hopes and blotted out forever the happy future that was opening out to him. He clasped his hands in profound reverence to his mother and said, verse 2, Evamastu Gamishyami vanam vastum aham tu ataha jata chiradhara rajnyaha pratignyam anupalayan. O my queen, on my eyes and ears be it. I shall take myself to the dark forests and live the life of a hermit with matted hair, deer skin, and bark of trees. That's it. Rama says, Evamastu. In the previous chapter, Dashratha was very sad that Kaikeyi has spoken such words. But then Valmiki says that Shokam did not even enter the heart of Rama. He was not sorrowful at all. And right now we get to see Rama say, Evamastu. Okay, I shall do it. Let it be so. And he says, Gamishyami, I shall go. Vanam vastum aham tu ataha jata chiradhara rajnya pratignyam anupalayan. I shall fulfill the vow that Dashratha has given you. I shall do that. I shall fulfill the king's promise, and I shall go to the forest, reside over there, wearing matted hair and covered with the bark of trees and deer skin. Is it not my beholden duty to fulfill my father's promise? Verse 3. Idam tu jnatam ichhami kim artam mam mahipatihi na abhinandati durdarsho yatha puram arindama. But the king knows me better than myself. No misfortune or calamity has the least power to shake his iron will. The flower of valor and heroism, I wonder that he evinces not his usual joy and delight at beholding me. I am all anxious to know why. Verse 4. Manyurna cha tvaya karyo devi bruhi tava grataha yasyami bhava suprita vanam chira jatadharaha. But I pray you entertain not the least suspicion about my willingness to keep my word. I swear it before you once again most solemnly. I shall go to the dark forest to lead the life of a hermit with matted hair clad in deerskin and bark of trees. Verse 5. Hitena guruna pitra kritaknyena nripena cha niyujyamana vishrabdham kimna kuryat aham priyam. His Majesty is the most watchful guardian of my interests. I have sat at his feet and learned the truth of life and being. He is the Lord and ruler over us. Ingratitude was never associated with his name, much less towards you. Is it not my most joyful duty to obey his behests without question, without hesitation, and at any cost? Verse 6. Alika manasam tu ekam hridayam dahati iva me svayam yanna aha mam raja bharatasya abhishechanam. But one thought rankles in my heart. Why did I not receive the order for Bharata's coronation from the lips of His Majesty? Was he anxious to spare me any probable pain or disappointment? Verse 7. Aham hi sitam rajyam cha pranan ishtan dhanani cha Krishtaha bhratre svayam dadyam bharataya aprachoditaha. Without being asked, I myself would have gladly offered even Sita with a kingdom, my life, loved ones, and wealth. So here, Sita Ma always represents Rama's very own life. Sita Ma is the inner potency of Lord Rama. And whenever Rama, on very rare occasions, whenever he specifies that he would have even let go of Sita, it means that he would have happily let go of his own life. Because Lord Rama himself says that Sita means more to him than his own life. So whenever he says Sitam Dadani Cha, I would have happily given even Sita and the Rajyam, Pranan, everything I would have given, it means that he would have given even his own life. And the person whom he loves more than his own life. So, Bhratre Svayam Dadyam. So, Rama says, Krishtaka Bhratre Svayam Dadyam. That means I would have happily given the kingdom, Sita, my life and everything without being asked. Aprachoditaha. That means without being asked, I would have happily given everything. Verse 8. Kim punar manuja indrena svayam pitra prachoditaha tavacha priya kamartham pratignyam anupalayan. Then my father and Lord has himself laid his commands on me that I should see the crown placed on the brows of Bharata. It is my most sacred duty with me to fulfill his promises to you. And your inclination too runs that way. Are these not reasons enough? So Rama says that he himself would have happily given everything to Bharata because Bharata is that wonderful a brother. So he would have given everything to Bharata, and now he's being commanded by his father's desires. So his father's boon to Kekeya also dictates that he do this, and therefore no one should even entertain a modicum of doubt as to whether Rama would fulfill his father's wishes or not. Verse 9. Tat ashvasaya hi imam tvam kim nva idam yan mahipatihi vasudha asakta nayano mandam ashruni munchati. Alas, my heart bleeds to see His Majesty hang his stately head in sorrow and grief, dripping scalding tears on the affrighted earth. I pray you to somehow soothe away his grief. Verse 10. Gachantu cha eva anayitum dutah shigra javehayai Bharatam matula kulat adya eva nripa shasanat. Let countless messengers ride fast on fleet horses to the capital of the Lord of the Kekeyas to bring back Bharata as His Majesty has ordered. Verse 11. Dandakaranyam esho aham itaha gacchami satvaraha avicharya pitur vakyam samavastum chaturdasha. And I shall go straight from here to the forests of Dandakaranya and live there for 10 years and 4. Would I think twice about obeying my father's commands? So now let us go through Lord Rama's thought process over here. So the first thing he says is, Evamastu. I absolutely agree to do this. And then he says, why isn't my father responding to me as he used to do so before? So Rama's concern was never about going to the forest. It was just the love that Dashrata used to show before. Right now, he doesn't show that same happiness when he is seeing me. So Rama's concern was only about his bhakta. It was not about his personal discomfort that he has to go off to the forest and stay there for 14 years. Once again, he promises that he will keep up that word. Even though in the previous chapter he mentioned that Rama na dvir abhibhashate, Rama doesn't have to speak twice. But over here he says, yes, I shall go. I shall go to the forest. There is no problem at all. And then he says, my only compunction is that why didn't the king tell me this directly? I would have happily given everything to Bharata, and more so because it is the king's promise to you that I will fulfill whatever he said. I'm going to happily give the kingdom over to my beloved Bharata. And then he once again iterates that he is happy to go to the forest and stay there for 14 years, while fleet-footed horses should carry the messengers to go to the kingdom of Kekeya and inform Bharata to return to Ayodhya and get coronated based on father's wishes. So this is Rama. The day that he was supposed to be crowned the king of this entire world, on that very day, his stepmother has asked him to promise something that his father had promised, and she is asking him to go off and stay in the forest for 14 years. The day he was supposed to be the king, on that day, she asks him to go to the forest and give the crown to his younger brother. There is absolutely no trace of sadness in Rama. Actually, Valmiki had mentioned that sorrow did not even enter the heart of Rama. He is absolutely blissful, and therefore it makes it all the more poignant that we get to see things from Dashrata's perspective. Dashrata is facing the ground. Hot tears are scorching the earth. That is how Dashrata is, because his beloved Rama is happy to go off to the forest. on the day he was supposed to become the emperor. In the earlier chapters of Ayodhya Kand, Dasharatha himself tells Kaikeyi that Rama will not utter a word of protest. How I wish he would do that. But Rama will not utter a word of protest, and he will happily go off to the forest. And right now, the Lord is doing exactly what his Bhakta had predicted. Not a single word of protest. And even though he himself had promised that he will fulfill the boons that Dasharatha gave to Mother Kaikeyi, over here he once again iterates that he will happily go off to the forest dressed as a recluse, and he will happily give the kingdom to Bharata. Not just the kingdom, his own life also he would have happily given to Bharata without being prompted or asked to do so. In the next section, let us see how Kaikeyi reacts to Rama's words. Jai Sita Ram.